It's Lloyd live here on SiriusXM The Heat. Good morning, you're in Mina's house. Lloyd is family. This is why he just gets to do, you know, and just start right from the top
Mina's
with music.
Was we supposed to take our shoes off at the door?
It's all right. You're a guest. You can do whatever you want.
I got nice feet.
You do. You have nice shoes, too.
Oh, thank you.
Classic Converses. I like it.
No, these are not Converses.
Wait, what are they?
All right, don't sell me short. These are Rick Owens.
Oh, fancy.
My fancy shoes.
I see. So you got the guitar today.
I do.
And talk to me about your co-guitarist here.
Well, Marcos is based out of New York City. And I had to come up here a few months, about a year and a half ago. About a year and a half ago, I had to come to New York to debut True. And I wanted an accompanying player to express some of the solo material in the song. I found Marcos at the last minute, and we literally met up the day of performance, went over some stuff, and I immediately realized how amazing he was as a player and a musician. And anytime I come to New York, I hit him up, and we just link up and vibe out sometimes. So
I didn't realize you played the guitar. How long have you been playing?
I picked up the guitar actually the same year that I made the album King of Hearts. Okay. So during the lay it down period, I bought my first guitar. However, I bought a right-handed guitar, and I'm left-handed. And I also bought a wide neck classical guitar. So it was really hard for me to start in the beginning, but I was really so anxious and impatient. You know, you have to order a left-hand guitar sometimes. Yeah. Because they don't really just sell a bunch of them in the store. And I didn't want to do that. So I grabbed the right-hand guitar and just kind of taught myself. I'm still teaching myself, but I could play enough to get through my songs. So
I like it. I like it. It adds like a different musical element to you. I always say you have this unique quality in your voice that I love. And you went on a hiatus a little bit, and I missed the quality in your voice. So when you came back with True, I was excited to hear you again. Can you talk to me a little bit about the song that you just performed? I'm hoping we're going to hear True. But the song that you just did, can you talk to me about that?
I don't know. I was just in the mood. I was just feeling good. And we was actually playing another song that we're going to do later. And then we just kept going, and it went into something else. And then I just started freestyling.
So that was a freestyle?
And I feel good. Yeah, right before everybody came, we was line checking our instruments. And I'm like, let's do that. Let's just do it. Yeah. And so it was really just a freestyle. I wrote down some scratch lyrics right here. And I'm just kind of following little hints, but yeah,
that's amazing.
That's pretty much
you just created that.
Like the funnest part of the music to me is spontaneity.
Right.
Yeah.
Your hair is long again. I remember when you cut it off and just out of nowhere, now it's long. Are we gonna keep it long? Or are we gonna let it grow? What are we doing there?
I don't know. I may grow it back and then cut it off again, give it to kids with cancer.
I love that. I love that.
That was amazing. I got that certificate. I hang that with pride in my house.
Right.
However, I felt a little naked. Without, to say the least.
You feel the draft sometimes, without the back of your neck.
Yeah, man, without my locks. So I grew them back, and what's funny is I think my music kind of captured some of the old soul of me when my hair grew back. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me about what's going on in your career, because prior to 2018, you didn't release an album for what? 7 years, I believe?
5.
5 years.
Yeah,
5 years.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about what was going on during that time, because there was a period where you were on fire, and then we don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, well, I had some personal things I wanted to address. I wanted to spend time with my family. Right. I've been touring and releasing albums pretty consistently for the past umpteen years. I missed a lot of my childhood. I also gained a tremendous amount of experiences that I would never, trade in. But, spending time with my family was a big part of that. I helped my sister graduate medical school.
Can we clap it
so
up?
she became the first, doctor in that field in the family. I was there when my niece was born to play and sing music for her. And then that gained me a whole new perspective on my relationship with women and people. And I helped my brother when he fought a manic depression bout. I went to, meetings with him, and we spoke and expressed ourselves and had, these really, really bonding experiences that I think if I would have gave all the time and energy to the music that it requires, I would have missed some of that. And sometimes, you know, when people are fighting themselves, it kind of teaches you a lot about yourself, you know, through helping them. And I learned to have to face my own fears and insecurities.
Right.
And through that, I gained a new appreciation for the economy of words, for the message that music can provide to people, the comfort it can give to their souls and their spirits in times of need. And I just decided that there were certain things in music, if I was going to express those sentiments that was so deep reaching and I thought necessary, I had to learn how to produce those ideas in a way that I didn't know how at the time, like being able to play instruments,
right.
being able to draw from my life's experiences. So I took time to really learn them.
Right.
I was silent for a lot of that time, you know, just count my blessings. And I went back to high school. I graduated.
Yes, I saw that. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Personal growth.
I graduated. I became a father for the first time.
Yes.
And growing up without my father, who was tragically taken from me at a young age, it was by far the most enjoyable and fulfilling thing that's ever happened to me as a person. And I wanted to hold on to that. So then it was like, I'm never leaving this place.
Right, right.
And True happened to be kind of like the first session that I ever recorded after being away. That was really the first sentiments that came out of my mouth and my soul was, hey, world, I know it's been a while. I thought I'd come around, let you know what's up now. And then I built from there. But when you really love something and you bleed it, you never leave it. You know, you just hopefully stay patient enough to come back to it stronger than ever. And I would like to believe that's what I did. I also really, really wanted to put myself in a position to own my own music. And unfortunately, this business has not evolved for people to be able to find a clear path to ownership. And some of my best music I may never own, which bothers me. And so I decided that if I do come back and release this music, once people started to hear True, they started to buzz. And I took a few meetings, but I decided to go independent for the first time in my life because I wanted to bet on myself and I wanted to own my own music. And
we'll talk about that because I really want to talk about your journey from being signed to major labels to now independence and then also True. So Lloyd is here on The Heat, SiriusXM in Mina's house. We're going to come back and talk to him some more.
Cool.
It's The Heat, SiriusXM. Lloyd is still here, Mina's house. I'm Mina SayWhat. Lloyd, when you were talking, I had so many questions rush through my head. I first want to talk about True because after your hiatus where you had like a large growth personally, you came back with True, and I felt like it was the perfect song to explain what you've been going through. You just so eloquently written, and you know, I really felt for you when I heard the song. Who told you to do this? Was this something that you kind of were like, I need to get this off my chest and let people know what's going on? Did you know it was always going to be put in the music? I mean, some people just come back from being on a hiatus and we don't know what's going on. They just put out music. But I love that you decided to explain what you had been through.
Well, I drew from a very personal perspective, but with other people in mind, which is interesting when you do that because even though you personalize something, you also become selfless in the act. And I had, you know, each human being in mind when I recorded this music in particular because not only was it something I felt I needed, but it was also something I thought other people could appreciate and even relate to on so many levels. I said when I had recorded it, you know, President Trump was new to office. There were a lot of, you know, killings and shootings in the streets. There was a lot of divisiveness and hatred towards each other. There was a lot of judgment being brought down on individuals that were different. And there was a lot of ignorance in the air. And I thought the only way for me to combat this without being angry would be to reach inside and maybe make sure I was, you know, living the right way. And I think through that, I find that when you really sit down and talk with someone, you know, you don't just talk at them and you really allow yourself to have a conversation, you start to realize how related you are, how alike you really are, and really how much love should exist, because you can see your reflection in that person. And, you know, that culminated with, you know, the joy I felt from spending time with my niece, then carried over to the joy I felt and responsibility I felt as being a father. It just was a culmination of things. Plus, I think I was reading some heavy things at the time. I was, you know, reading a lot about meditation and elevation, and it just led me to that place, I think. Also, I started to collect a lot of vinyl during my time away. I just kind of stayed away from the digital world as much as possible.
Because they will drag you and eat you up and
so
spit
much,
you out.
Not so much. I'm not talking so much about digital interaction with people. I'm talking about the way I was ingesting my music. I started to search for more of a human experience, and through that, I got into a lot of people: Bill Withers, Bob Dylan, Fela Kuti, Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield, James Brown, amongst many, many, many others, Nina Simone, many, many others. And these were people who I was kind of discovering for the first time as a grown man.
Really?
And that made me kind of angry that I kind of was missing this content and I didn't have this as a reference. So then they started to take over my purpose, and I realized that all my favorite artists, they at some point did something that was bigger than themselves. You know, they took on a responsibility with their music, and I was missing that in some ways. I wanted that to be kind of who I was. But then there was the real true confliction of how do I fit in? Because this is not for the club. This is, where does this belong, really? Right. You know, where do I belong, you know? And I'm still surprised by the success of the song, True, because I didn't ever imagine it to be a single or ever imagine it to be that popular with people. I didn't know where it would fit in.
Can we hear it? Is that on your list today?
Yeah,
do you guys want to hear it?
You got some psychic abilities, man.
It's like the perfect lead in here.
Yeah, it is.
Lloyd is here on the Heat, SiriusXM in Mina's house. Isn't his voice everything? Lloyd is live here in Mina's house on the Heat, SiriusXM. Vocally, how hard is that, what you just did?
By far the hardest song I've ever sang in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. First few times I performed, first few times people came by to hear it after they heard I was doing new music. I just didn't even want to be in there. So I would just leave the room and let them listen and digest, and then I would come back in, and, you know, it was what it was. I couldn't really take someone not feeling me on that. That took a long time. And then when I performed it the first few times, I cried. Aww. Which was really hard. I mean, it's still by far the most emotional music, some of the most emotional music I've ever created. I could cry right now. I mean, really, it's like really powerful. When
you made the song, do you feel like a weight lifted?
Wow. It was actually, yes, I felt relieved, like a relief of a burden that I was carrying. But then I really felt more responsibility after that fact, because now I see what that means, you know, for not only myself but for people. And now it's like I can never really search for things pretentious in nature. It's got to have that kind of soul substance at heart. So definitely is a vice versa, yin and yang kind of thing.
Lloyd, so I watched pieces of your Unsung, which I think you're way too young in your career to even be on Unsung. It's just my personal opinion.
Don't say that, man.
I think so, because I think there's more for you to do.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean my story's over just because someone told it thus far.
No, I don't think it's over. I think there's more.
There is more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in learning about the whole Murder Inc. time of your life. I didn't know, you know, when Murder Inc. was going through their legal bouts that you actually tried to sign with another a production company. And that Irv kind of was like, no, you're still signed to me. Can you talk about that whole process?
Yeah, well, my album Street Love, I believe, was released in 2007-ish. And shortly before that time, my label was going through a federal trial. They were being accused of money laundering, amongst other things. My label head, Irv Gotti, as I know, they may not, he grew up from the Queens part of town in New York, and he was really good friends with some original gangsters from that neighborhood for many years. And due to association, they were trying to kind of tie him into a larger picture, saying that he was laundering street money into the music business.
So it was a RICO charge?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And during that time, there was like a black cloud that would follow us around. No one really wanted to touch us. No one wanted to invest in the company. No one could release music because all the money was kind of tied up in illegal. Plus, a lot of the assets was frozen, as happens in trials for all you criminals out there. And so I was just kind of being patient. You know, I had recorded some music in my spare time, but you know, I was just kind of waiting it out. I was attending the trial with everyone, supporting. And then Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and pretty much relocated my entire family. And it was like just really hard time for me personally because I wanted to support them and help them out. But the only way I knew to do that was to release more music. And I actually had a clause in my contract that stated I was required to make a new album 1 year after the making of my first album to the date. That time had passed, and I was having conversations about what to do. And so what happened was I recorded some music, and I decided that I'm going to spend my own money. I'm going to spend the money I got on the music for the first time, and I'm going to, you know, pay for, you know, promotion and marketing on my own. I'm going to reach out to my friend Lil Wayne. And I'm going to get him to do a feature and see what happens. I mean, that was really the only option I had. And what ended up happening was the song charted just from the Southeast. And then it ended up peaking at #1. Many, you know, months later, it actually broke a Billboard record for the longest charted song before peaking. And that's because I had to promote it independently, in a sense. And through that small regional success, Atlantic Records reached out to me through some mutual friends, and they actually offered me a deal. And so I tried to work my way out of my contract.
And Irv was like, nah.
I thought I was out. Due to a small technicality, he was able to actually keep me on board. Wow. But I was pretty much out of there. And Atlantic had actually drew up a contract for me as an artist and for me as a producer to be able to develop my own acts. And it was like the coolest thing. I was only 20 years old at the time. I would have been an executive producer on my own projects, and that was really unheard of. I mean, there was no other young act like that had that kind of influence over their own music. And that's really what my goal was. And I remember the first meeting I had with Atlantic, I told them that I wanted the song to be popular in Europe. I wanted it to be the first time I ever released music in Europe. And they was like all on board. And then I had to go back to the ink. And the first thing I did was I bought a plane ticket to London. And I went out there and I started promoting the song out there. And it became my most successful song at the time.
Amazing. Lloyd is here. We're going to come back with audience questions. It's Mina's House on the Heat, SiriusXM. I got so much to talk to you about, and I'm running out of time. I'm going to share here I know you have a lot of fans here. You have a question? Oh, he's been waiting to ask you a question all hour. Go ahead, baby. Walk up to the mic. Tell us your name, where you're from.
My name is Khalik. You can call me Leaky.
Leaky!
Yeah, like Nene Leaks without the S. I'm from Long Island, and my question is, you have Lloyd, you have a very cartoonish voice. So I want to ask, would you ever consider doing like voice acting, and what like cartoons and animated movies would you be doing?
That's a good question. Okay, Leaky.
Well, I will say this, Leaky. I've never been asked that before. I've never been told I had a cartoonish voice. Now, my younger self would have got offended, but that's because I was ignorant. I know what you're saying. I think, why not? I mean, sure. But I never thought about doing it. I did just finish my first movie role, so maybe something will come from that.
We independent. We doing movies.
Movie.
Oh.
Sing it.
Listen, we gonna put positive things out in the air.
No worries.
What movie is this?
I just wrapped filming a movie called The DeBarge Story, the Bobby DeBarge Story. It's gonna premiere on TV One in June, and it is the incredible story of Bobby DeBarge, the DeBarges, and the group Switch, which produced so many classic material in the 80s.
Who are you playing in the movie?
I played the role of Greg Williams. He was the founding member of Switch. They call themselves Switch because they switch instruments during the sets. Everyone played multiple instruments. And Greg was a producer and musician and a vocalist. And he was a childhood friend of Bobby and actually convinced him to be in the group. And then they have, it's a very interesting story, yeah.
Are we going to see more acting from Lloyd?
Wow. I've had this fear of the big screen for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, you know, fear can
exist. You're so handsome. Why?
Fear can exist in many forms. You could be afraid to fall or afraid to fly. I'm not sure which one it was, but it existed. It took for that first experience to kind of get that, you know, out of my system. I would love to. Yeah.
You're on tour right now. The Millennium Tour. You guys excited? Everybody's on this tour. B2K, Pretty Ricky, Mario, Lloyd, Bobby V, Chingy. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yes.
How is it being on stage with these guys?
Well, you know, I think one of the most unfortunate and tragic things is when someone has the gift to do something and they are unable to do it as much as they would like. And for whatever reason, okay? But it's very hard to, you know, love to perform and to sing and interact and feel that energy from the stage and not have that opportunity for whatever reason. And when I found out that those guys was coming back to performing, I wanted to share in their joy, to be honest. I mean, it was, I felt like it would be a moment in time that would be very, very positive and joyful. And I didn't want to miss out on that wave. I thought maybe I would be able to just, you know, I don't know, benefit from their energy.
You belong there. And they're like wrapping me up, but I can talk to you forever. But the hits that Lloyd has, I mean, Get It Shorty, Lay It Down, Southside, You, Hey Young Girl, Girls Around the World, I Want You, Now True, Now Caramel. Like, you deserve to be on that tour. Your hits, you have hits. Like, a lot of them.
Yeah, well, that era in time is definitive of my story and my sound. So I'm glad that they reached out to me and offered me a slot. And I want to give a big thank you to Ashanti, who came out in the New York show and performed Southside with me. So we really, really was like back in the early 2000s, yeah.
How's Irv Gotti? Your relationship with him okay? Or what is it like? Is it still a little on ice?
Well, you know, a wise man told me that all things happen in time. And I have nothing but time and love for everyone in respect. So it'll come around.
Okay. All right. Well, Lloyd is here. Tell us what's going on, because now you're independent. What's coming up next? Are you releasing a new project or are you working the old one? What are we doing there?
Wow. Well, I'm on tour. I mean,
right. How much more can the man do?
Yeah, I'm on tour for the next couple months. And, of course, the movie, I just wrapped The Unsung. And I'm always kind of sneaking in new material. I don't think it'll take me 5 more years to release a project.
Okay, good.
So I have that to look forward to. But really, man, my main focus is just spending time with my kids, you know, enjoying fatherhood, and you know, what happens, happens.
So next time you come back, we got to talk about that. Because
yes.
I want to know all about that. But when you come back, when you come back off the tour and you're ready for whatever is the next phase, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Lloyd, for coming through. We really enjoyed this, right, guys? Y'all tired? What is going on with y'all? I need y'all to give us more energy. Thank you, Lloyd.
You're welcome.
It's The Heat, SiriusXM. Thank you for checking in. It's Mina's house.